Today, we are going to cover the function of emotions. In this fast-paced world, you have too much to do. You set deadlines that are unattainable, and you have too much to try and focus your attention on. You don't tend to look towards your emotions. You focus more on your behaviors than you do on what's going on with you. You want to know what's going on out here or out there, outside of you, instead of what's going on in here, inside of you. When you do take a moment to reflect, your thoughts generally revolve around what you have done in the past and what you'll do in the future. That is on your actions. An immense amount of your daily energy is consumed by behaving or thinking about how you behave. You make endless lists, ruminate about whether you said or did the right thing, second guess yourself over trivial decisions made days or decades ago, agonize over what you should do tomorrow, and keep yourself on edge, anticipating what others will do or want or think of you, so that you'll know precisely how to respond to them. Your actions are concrete proof that your existence is meaningful and that you're good and a good person. You believe that you are what you do. On the rare occasion that your mind becomes still and you notice what's going on inside, you may not like what you find. If it's unpleasant, you tell yourself not to dwell on things you can't change or reprimand yourself for being self-absorbed. When you hear whispers of uncertainty or distress, you shrink in panic. When you feel confused, vulnerable, or overwhelmed by these inner whispers, you slam the door to your heart and rush off seeking certainty in order, comfort, and action, and numbness in routine. Life is too short to spend too much time looking inward. There are places to go, people to see, and things to do. Paying attention to what you're feeling inside is also pretty uncomfortable, right? Don't go there, you warn yourself. Here's some examples of language you've been conditioned to use to describe what to do with emotions. Get through it. Rise above. Ignore the pain. Get it together. Bury the past. Survive the pain. Resolve your issues. Keep a stiff upper lip. Can you hear the desperation to focus away from your inner world? The eagerness to shove emotions down as if they're obstacles to living? If only you could get rid of your emotions, you'd be okay, in control, who you want to be, where you should be. You treat your emotions like garbage. Just bag them up and put them on the curb. Emotions aren't garbage. They are actually the bright lights that illuminate your journey towards health and happiness. Without them, you're destined to exist as a shadow of your authentic self. Emotions, if you shift your point of view, can be the best thing that ever happened to you. Our culture and families mostly teach us that emotions are irrelevant or incidental to your well-being at best. They have no valid function and are merely annoying distractions. Emotions actually do have a function. This function is critical. Emotions are hardwired into you. They are an essential part of being human. Imagine a world filled with beings lacking emotions, robots and sociopaths. They mimic human affect, but they are not human. Emotions are one of the things that make us human. If everyone has the capacity to feel, then emotions are neither accidental or incidental and have an evolutionary purpose. The function of emotions is to tell you about your internal world, just as senses provide guidance in the external world. Think about how grateful you are for your senses, how much you value the ability to see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. You don't get angry at your senses or try to ignore them. Instead, you accept them because you're figured out their purpose: to help negotiate the external world. You'd be in a sorry state, maybe even dead, without your senses. When it comes to emotions, most are ready to close up shop. Emotions scare, puzzle, confuse, and make you uncomfortable. They drive you to eat, shop, drink, starve, gamble, work, exercise, talk nonstop, live dangerously, and take drugs in order to not feel them. Imagine that you did that in response to your senses. Your emotions have the same purpose as that of your senses: to keep you safe and out of harm's way, to steer you towards what's healthy and life-affirming, and to deter you from what's dangerous and life-threatening. Emotions point you towards what's pleasurable and what's painful so you can make appropriate choices. Both pleasure and pain are relative, arbitrary, and idiosyncratic to each person. That's why there are lion tamers and there are librarians, investment bankers and yogis, archaeologists and football players. I'm not really sure that that one is an opposite example. People have varying tolerance for pain. Some complain about a hangnail while others ignore a migraine. Despite our different innate and learned responses, we all share major commonalities. No one jumps for joy at the idea of going to the dentist. No one finds extraordinary nature boring. There's a good reason for this. You have a better chance of physical survival if you are biologically programmed to be highly sensitive to both pleasure and pain. You're also programmed for emotional survival. If you value and pay attention to your emotions, they will help you live and prosper. Both physical and emotional health are required to ensure the success of human life. You cannot live a happy, meaningful, satisfied life without experiencing the full range of emotions. Those you label good, those you label bad, and those you are indifferent about. If you shut them off, you are asking for trouble. They are a built-in radar system you need to interact effectively with the world. If you want to lead a rich and fulfilling life, accept that your emotions have a vital purpose. So, how do you know you are having an emotion? An emotion is a sensation that initially develops on a physical level. This is what we call a feeling. It can start out a bit vague or fuzzy, turn acute and sharp, erupt or surge over like a tidal wave. There is a difference between affect and emotion. Affect is a vague sensation that may be either conscious or unconscious, but emotion is the conscious experience of such affect. An uneasy feeling you might experience without knowing why is affect. Anger for being overcharged for an item is emotion. Affect or sensation are also called feelings. Feelings become emotions when you make meaning of them. When you place a sensation in context and tack on a label. A fact takes you from the general to the specific. If we were to recognize the cause of that uneasiness, sensing that we are being manipulated by a salesperson, the emotion anger is produced. Both feelings or affective sensations and emotions, conscious identifications of a feeling, are part of an organic process. You know you have a feeling when you notice a physical sensation that draws attention to itself. As you become aware of the nature of that feeling, you translate it into a particular emotion. One problem with this process is that affects or feelings often run below our radar screen. We kind of notice them and kind of don't. They may flick into your awareness and be gone in a flash. When you're aware of a pounding heart, constriction in your throat, or tense muscles, you often write it off as merely physical disturbances. Feelings belong to your primitive defense system and are rooted in your collective biology and the history of humankind. They are neurological, biochemical reactions that happen on a cellular level in response to stimuli. They do not require thinking. You're camping and a bear comes running towards your tent. You run as an innate response to the fear you are feeling. Your well-trained dog comes running full force towards you when you call him for food. You respond with joy. You understand the context of the advancing bear versus the context of the advancing dog. You understand the context influencing your response, which in turn generates a specific reaction. Here's another example of affect and emotion. You used to have a crush on John, and every time you saw him, your heart skipped a beat. Your knees got a little weak, and your brain turned to mush. You might have labeled these physical feelings as love or infatuation. Then you found out John was cheating on you. You see him and your heart starts to pound. There's a knot in your stomach. Your face gets red and a surge of tingling energy shoots through your arms and legs. You call that feeling hate. Same stimulus, different context. You know you're experiencing emotion when you're not sick and your body, particularly a major organ, heart, lungs, or intestines, have a strong physical reaction to stimuli. Illness and medical conditions aside, these sensations often suggest emotional reactions. Dry throat, fatigue, shortness of breath, queasiness, racing pulse, flushing, inability to focus, butterflies in your stomach, pounding heart, lump in your throat, tightness or hollowness in your chest, constriction around the eyes. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you name these physical sensations or the responses you have towards them. What's important is that you have the ability to remain aware of what's going on inside your body and that you stay with it long enough to give it a label. Identifying emotions takes awareness and practice. Do you know a lot about music or fashion or art or cooking? Think about how you gained your expertise. You followed that special interest, you studied it, and you became an expert. If you played a sport when you were young, you can probably teach someone how to play it now. Identifying and translating your inner world is an acquired skill too. You'll improve at recognizing emotions by paying close attention to them. The first step is to tune into physical sensations and then wonder why you are having them. This does not include the physical sensations that go with getting sick or having an allergy, but rather to a flash of sensation in your body. This may be the precursor to an emotion. You work for a magazine and you proudly send off the article you've just written. You look up from your desk and your boss is standing in your doorway, article in hand. She does not look happy. A cold, panicky sensation starts to creep up inside of you. This is likely fear as you worry whether you're going to be reprimanded, laid off, or reduced in responsibility in writing for the magazine. One of the handouts for this lesson is a list of emotions. Even though some of these emotions are viewed as positive, they still may make you feel uncomfortable. This is usually a conditioned response from someone or someone's having created a negative connection to those emotions. You may be overly excited about what you're up to, and someone tells you that you are self-absorbed. You may be very proud of what you are up to, and someone tells you that you lack humility. If you're unskilled at identifying what you're feeling, review this list whenever you have a sensation that you want to decipher. Be as specific as you can when naming emotion. Grief, not just sadness. Rage, not just annoyance. Ecstasy, not just plain old happiness. Although happiness is pretty great too. Confusion, not unease. Gradually, you train yourself to translate what you're feeling in your body into what you are experiencing in your heart. Strong physical sensations can mean that information is incoming and that you should pay attention. If you check your email, mailbox, the news, voicemail to see what's coming in and going on, why ignore the signals from your heart? By focusing on labeling specific emotions, you'll establish neural connections that will do the work for you more automatically. As an extra bonus, by making this connection, you'll also become more conscious of what's going on in your body around whatever you do to block emotions. This is the behaviors that understanding your emotions will cause to subside. All feelings are normal. Emotions can be intense or mild, pleasant or painful, dull or acute, transient or long-lasting. They are rarely abnormal. What you generally mean when you ask if something like an emotion, thought, or behavior is normal is whether it's okay to feel, think, or act a certain way. Behind most questions about normalcy lurks darker, more telling questions. Is there something wrong with me? Do other people feel this way? Am I a bad person? What do other people think of me? What would other people do if they found out how I really think or feel? If you're concerned about your feelings being normal or abnormal, you probably lack a solid emotional education, one in which your parents and other important caretakers felt comfortable with the range of emotions and their intensity. Like most parents, they were probably uneasy with their darker feelings and believed that there was something wrong with them. Not surprisingly, they passed this invalid assumption on to you. Barring brain injury, biochemical abnormalities, or what we call sociopathy or psychopathology, we are all born with the capacity to feel all of our emotions from A to Z. What you felt, I've likely felt. As has a camel herder in Egypt, or an astronaut in outer space, or a politician, or an artist, or your grandmother, or your best friend. We all feel all of the emotions. Emotions are one of the myriad of mystical things that bind us together as human beings. We all know sorrow. We all know joy. Great art, music, dance, theater, and literature move us all in a nearly universal way. For most people, it comes with a huge relief to realize that whatever you are experiencing is normal. Beyond that is the confidence that if others have survived from these emotions, you can too. You also have emotions about your emotions, meaning you tend to pass judgment on the ones that make you uncomfortable. Remember that the desire to have normal emotions, whatever that means, is based on the wish to be accepted, acceptable to yourself and those you love, and that the emotions you might label abnormal are probably perfectly natural. If you really want to know if one of them is off the charts, gather up the courage to ask someone who seems emotionally sound if they can relate. If you're still having trouble, then it's time to speak with a therapist who's used to discussing these issues. The ability to control emotions is based on the intensity of the emotions and your reactions to them. When primitive sensations of arousal or inhibition develop, you simply cannot will them to go away. You wouldn't want to do that because they might be communicating something vital. By the time they reach consciousness and you label them, they're in play at least for the moment. If the emotion is a mild irritation, you can probably talk yourself out of feeling it or at least distract yourself. If the emotion is outrage that wells up from the depth of your being, you're going to have to work a great deal harder to alter your mood. In either case, it would be essential to explore what you are feeling and why before deciding on a particular course of action. If you spot a former friend who got into a big argument with you walking down the street towards you, your body may automatically react as if you are threatened. Your unconscious, harm-sensing apparatus is doing its job, and there's little you can do to control that physical feeling. As your old friend, now enemy, draws nearer, you may be relieved to discover it's a complete stranger who just looks a little bit like that old friend. If the person approaching turns out to, in fact, be your ex-friend, but he looks sad and frail and downtrodden and a bit broken, you may experience pity in addition to instant relief. The most effective way to manage feelings is by altering the beliefs that underlie them. It's your birthday and everybody at the office leaves without getting you well wishes. You may choose to believe that they don't care about you and consequently feel disappointed. If you change your thinking and realize that people may not even know that it's your birthday or might have skipped out early due to an impending blizzard, you'll feel less rejected and unhappy. That process comes from a therapeutic change model called cognitive behavior therapy, which is based on the principle that your beliefs create your feelings, and your feelings produce your behaviors. If you truly want to benefit from your emotions, you'll have to do a thorough, extensive examination of your belief system to see which thoughts lead to which affects. Please understand that the goal is not necessarily to control feelings, although that's one way of handling them. The goal is to understand the emotions and let them, along with sound judgment, dictate what needs to be done. Sometimes you want to experience an emotion to the max. For example, when you're grieving the loss of a loved one. Other times, you look to gain insight into an emotion to understand how you got yourself into an unhealthy situation, such as being dumped by another lover who just wasn't that nice to you. You often want to consider your available options for taking action before tossing out a snide comment that might provoke an argument with your spouse. The only time that exerting control over emotions is appropriate is when you're in circumstances in which it is unsuitable and even counterproductive to express them. If you're in the midst of teaching a lesson to your students or about to make a sales pitch and feel overcome with regret for some cutting remark you made to your mother this morning, you want to contain your feelings. If you are enraged at a driver who cuts you off, you will want to rein in your anger. If you just escaped a burning building with your 3-year-old child in your arms, you will want to take a few deep breaths rather than lose yourself in hysteria. The truth is, there is actually no such thing as a bad emotion. By labeling an emotion negatively, what you mean is that it causes you to feel badly, that is, not pleasurably, or that the experience is that it makes you feel as if you're a bad person. Emotions are emotions. just as colors are colors and musical notes are musical notes and food is food. Think of affects and emotions as clouds that have no intrinsic value. Whether you welcome them or not is situation dependent. It's so hot outside and the clouds suddenly fill the sky. You are happy with the break from the beating sun. You're sunbathing and a cloud comes along and you're momentarily bummed out. How you feel about the clouds is relative to your perspective. The same is true for emotions. If you're wondering why emotions that generate discomfort, what you might call bad emotions, won't go and stay away, that's another question entirely. That makes me wonder what you believe about emotions. If you believe you're always supposed to feel good, then feeling bad is sure to upset you. You are not supposed to feel good all the time. It's simply not possible. You have a range of emotions that come and go, and that's the way life is supposed to work. If your colleague blames you for something that's not your fault, you'll probably feel misunderstood. If you have been ignoring your brother for months, you may feel ashamed or guilty. If your best friend steals your boyfriend, you will likely feel betrayed. In all of these instances, you'll feel badly. These feelings do eventually go away. They will also come back again in another circumstance, because that's the way the emotional ball bounces. You only brush away your feelings if you do not understand their function and value their purpose. You forget that they exist, for the most part, to instruct you. To become a whole, healthy person, you have to stop trying to avoid feeling badly and welcome all your emotions without judgment, no matter what they are. It might seem hard to imagine right now, but perhaps someday you'll be glad you can embrace feeling helpless, disappointed, sad, lonely, or confused. It will mean that you are functioning well, that you possess the ability to be honest with yourself, that you've reached a high level of consciousness and emotional maturity, and that you no longer have to live in terror of what's inside of you. Imagine what that would feel like. Understanding and experiencing your full range of emotions will change your life. By knowing what you feel, you'll know what you need. That could mean you need calm and quiet, you need risk and excitement, a warm body, a hug, a challenge to tell off your boss, space of your own, community, a good cry, a sense of accomplishment, marriage, a vacation in the mountains, a big move, to grieve a loss, to take a trip around the world, or dive headfirst into your future, whatever it is. Think of accepting your emotions as a twofold benefit. You'll be substituting a new emotion focus for old obsessions and bad behaviors, and you'll be getting more out of life. They have a function, and it's a really good function at that. That is it for lesson number 2. In lesson 3, we will talk about fear of emotions.